Our story takes us to Narahira Prison's Sector 4, where the inmates are in the mess hall. And honestly, the food looks halfway decent with rice, veggies, and some kind of meat. Our protagonist grabs his tray and sits down alone at one of the tables. Meanwhile, one of the prisoners helps himself to a little more food. But the young man wasn't in the mood to eat. He was watching everything carefully. Suddenly, one of the inmates glares at him and asks why he's staring. Right after, his tattooed buddy eggs him on, trying to get him to do something. The big guy is confused by the new kid's lack of reaction. Annoyed, the other guy spits near our protagonist to intimidate him. He then tells the kid to eat it all, or else he knows what's coming. The pair of bullies asks him what's with the long face, and if he has any manners. That's when they call him a murderer, and our hero's eyes fill with rage. He remembers he's going to get revenge on everyone who framed him, and stomps on the guy's foot. Lunging forward, he screams that he'll make them all feel the same suffering he felt. And with a furious glare, he's ready to finish off those who provoked him. The brute is completely frozen, stunned by the rookie's attitude. In a swift move, our protagonist lunges forward using his chopsticks as a weapon. Because of this, a lot of red liquid flies everywhere in the mess hall. He scores a direct hit on the guy's face, who writhes in pain. The story then takes us back to 2 weeks before all of this. The scene changes to a table in a bar, covered with drinks and food. Our protagonist is sitting on a couch with a very serious expression. He's watching a girl named Mayo Kurasawa, planning to confess his feelings to her. The young woman says she needs to go to the restroom and leaves with a friend. Meanwhile, the guy watches her walk away. He takes a deep breath and with a confident smile decides today is the day. So, he gets up and heads in the same direction the girl went. Reaching the hallway, he finds her and calls her over for a chat. The young man says he needs to tell her something important, and she questions his serious tone. He musters up the courage and finally confesses, asking the girl to be his girlfriend. The young woman politely turns him down, saying she doesn't want a boyfriend right now. Our protagonist is in shock as she walks away without a second glance. He's frozen in place, unable to believe what just happened. Back at the table, he takes out his frustration by crushing a beverage can. The guy starts drinking nonstop to drown his sorrows from the rejection. Chugging one can after another, he tries to forget the brush off he just got. With that, he slams another empty can on the table, already losing consciousness. Thanks to the booze, he completely passes out with his head on the table. Totally blacked out, he has no idea what's happening around him. When he wakes up, he finds himself alone in the dark room and wonders where everyone went. So, the young man gets up and goes to the door to see what's up. Outside, he's met with police officers in a crime scene. A cop grabs him and accuses him of the murder of the girl Mio Kurasawa. Our protagonist screams that it's impossible and tries to break free from the guards. Desperate, he clings to the police tape, not understanding the accusation. The guy is completely dazed by the situation, not getting any of it. Right before his eyes, he sees the body of the girl he liked lying on the ground. The scene cuts to the courtroom, where the judge sentences him to 30 years in prison. The girl's parents are outraged, screaming that he should have gotten the maximum penalty. Our protagonist's world collapses, and he wonders how it all came to this. He remembers Mayo's smile and questions if this is all just a nightmare. With tears in his eyes, the young man swears he wasn't the one who committed the crime. His father stands up in court and defends his son's innocence with everything he's got. In response, the victim's family accuses him of still making excuses for what he did. Immediately after, the girl's relatives go after the guy's father. They knock him to the ground, and our protagonist screams desperately for his dad. Being held back, he begs them to stop hurting his old man. Even while taking a beating, the father promises he will prove his son's innocence. The scene changes, showing the exterior of a building that looks like the prison. Back in the present, he's being stared down by other inmates in his cell. As he enters the cell, the other prisoners watch him with suspicion. Holding his belongings, one of the inmates asks him about his crime. The guy with the tattoos gets closer to intimidate him, but he's left speechless. With that, another prisoner hits him from behind and tells him to answer. On the floor, he cries and says he didn't do anything and that he was framed. The big guy calls him over with a less than friendly expression. Our protagonist obeys and stands in front of the cell's leader. Without warning, the inmate lands a powerful kick right in his stomach. The impact sends him flying backward, and he hits the cell floor hard. The bully lifts him up and asks if he's the murderer from the news. Even while denying the accusation, he gets beaten up again by the other inmates. The leader says he can't stand people like him and dares him to fight back. Seeing the lack of reaction, he tells his goons to tie the new guy up. Our protagonist tries to break free, but the other guys are stronger. Soon after, his hands are tied tightly so he can't escape. One of the bullies yells at him, asking if he still thinks he can resist. With that, he lands a punch with all his strength right in our protagonist's stomach. The blow is so powerful it makes the guy spit up a lot of blood. With his hands tied, he can't defend himself and becomes a human punching bag. Faced with the situation, the young man is all beaten up with no strength left to fight. The cell leader grabs him by the hair and glares at him with a look of contempt. He then threatens him, saying that if he tells the guards anything, it will be worse. Our protagonist memorizes the attacker's face with a look of pure hatred. The next day, a guard calls him for a chat in the prison hallway. The officer reveals terrible news: his parents passed away in an accident. Tojo is in complete shock and the guard asks if he has any other relatives. Seeing that the guy doesn't answer, the officer insists on the question about his family. With tears in his eyes, our hero replies that he has no one left in the world. The guard says he doesn't care anymore and sends him away without any compassion. Right after, the officers walk away to eat, leaving Tojo there alone. Back in the mess hall, our protagonist grabs his tray with the day's meal. With a completely empty look, he sits at the table with no desire to eat. At the same time, one of the bullies who bothers him is also getting his cho. Tojo watches everything from a distance with a serious and calculating expression. From there, the guy approaches and immediately starts yelling at our hero. His tattooed partner just watches the scene with a little smirk. The brute continues to stare down the new guy, waiting for a reaction. With that, his buddy spits right next to the tray to provoke him even more. He then threatens the guy, telling him to eat everything without complaining. The pair of idiots asks what's with the long face and if he has any manners. That's when they really hit a nerve, calling him a murderer, which sends him over the edge. The scene of the girl rejecting him flashes back into our protagonist's mind. To make matters worse, one of the guys throws trash on top of his rice. He also remembers his father's promise, who took a serious beating to defend him. With all these memories, Tojo's expression changes completely to one of hatred. He remembers when he was beaten and humiliated by the same guys in the cell. At that moment, he wonders why he has to suffer so much and realizes he has nothing left to lose. From then on, he grips his chopsticks tightly, thinking that nobody would care if he kicked the bucket. The word murderer echoes in his mind, along with the bully's mocking smile. But our protagonist decides he can't check out yet. He has scores to settle. With that, he stumps on the guy's foot with all his might and swears revenge against those who framed him. Immediately after, he lunges forward, screaming that he'll make them all feel what he felt. And with a completely unhinged look, he's ready to tear it all down. The brute is completely frozen, stunned by the rookie's sudden change in attitude. In a swift move, Tojo lunges forward, using the chopsticks as if they were a weapon. Because of this, a lot of red liquid flies everywhere in the middle of the mess hall. He scores a direct hit on the guy's face, who writhes in pain from the attack. The bully screams desperately in pain while trying to cover the wound. His partner is in shock and yells for his boss, who is on the floor. Without wasting a second, Tojo turns to the others and tells them to drop dead. The other inmates are furious and yell at Tojo for attacking their boss. But our protagonist doesn't back down. He grits his teeth, ready for whatever comes next. One of the goons is visibly scared by the new guy's change in attitude. Before the guy could even think, Tojo charges forward with insane speed. He lands a devastating blow right in the middle of the other prisoner's face. With a look of pure fury, he thinks that since he's going to bite the dust anyway, he's taking all these scumbags down with him. The punch is so brutal that the guy is knocked out cold and collapses on the floor, unresponsive. Because of this, the bully's body is thrown backward by the force of the impact. Without giving him time to breathe, our hero is already on to the next target. The guy takes a serious beating and can't even lift an arm to defend himself. At the same time, one of the other inmates runs to try and stop him from behind. The guy hits him with a punch to the back, but Tojo doesn't even seem to feel the blow. The inmate is ticked off by the rookie's resilience, who just keeps fighting. Our protagonist turns around with a crazed look, and the guy wonders if he's lost his mind. Amid the chaos, the guards arrive in the mess hall and yell for him to stop. So, one of the officers grabs him from behind to try and restrain him. The officer punches him and complains about him causing trouble. But Tojo doesn't even seem to feel the blow and glares at the guard with a terrifying look. Scared, the officer tells them to take the injured guy to the infirmary before it's too late. Meanwhile, our protagonist screams out of pure rage at the whole situation. He breaks free and lands a powerful spinning kick on the guard holding him. Because of this, the officer is completely stunned by the force of the attack. Immediately after, Tojo runs, and the guard yells, thinking he's going to throw himself against the wall. Several other inmates and officers join in to try and hold the guy back. From there, they grab him tightly while he struggles to break free. Even while being held, he continues to scream and fight with all his might. The scene changes to the infirmary where we see an IV bag hanging. Our protagonist is lying down and seems to have lost the will to live. The doctor explains to the guard that he'll be in danger if he continues to refuse food. Meanwhile, an elderly janitor enters the infirmary room to clean. With a broom in hand, he starts sweeping the floor of the place calmly. Suddenly, the old man stops and tells the young man not to throw his life away. Our protagonist hears the advice but remains lying down without any expression. The old man asks who will clear his parents' names if he passes away now. Upon hearing this, Tojo's eyes widen and he becomes alert. So, he sits up in bed and asks what the old man just said. The old man then questions if he ever stopped to think that the accident might not have been real. Tojo is even more shocked and asks what he's trying to imply. With a serious look, the old man states that our hero's parents were murdered. From there, the young man grabs him by the collar and demands to know how he knows that. The old man calms him down and asks directly if he really did in that girl. Our protagonist looks him in the eye and denies the accusation with absolute certainty. Given this, the old man concludes that his parents were eliminated for finding evidence. Tojo remembers that he always found everything very strange from the beginning of the case. He questions who would have the guts to do that, and what the motive would be. With that, tears of pure rage stream down his face as he grits his teeth. Tojo screams that the old man is right and that he can't check out until he avenges his parents. Miss Tsuchiya gives a satisfied little smile at the young man's new determination, but he warns that in his current state, Tojo won't be able to do anything and that Gariki wants to finish him. Given this, the old man says that fortunately, there is a way to survive. He flashes a big grin and praises our protagonist's courage, saying he likes him. From there, Tsuchiya offers to help if he survives, and the young man doesn't understand. The old man reveals with a sinister look that his help is for escaping from prison. Suddenly, the old man's expression changes when he hears a noise from outside. Before leaving, he hands Tojo a book and says it will be very useful in the future. Our protagonist takes the book and watches the old man walk away down the hall. The book's cover is about human anatomy and its main weak points. The guy asks who he really is and the old man introduces himself as Tsuchiya, but he adds that the young man can just call him Hold Timer. Suddenly, a guard bursts through the infirmary door and enters the room. He yells at our protagonist for calmly reading a book. The officer complains that the mess he made has become a nightmare for everyone. With that, he sends him to solitary for a month to cool his head. So, the guard throws him forcefully into the dark cell without any mercy. The metal door closes and our hero is left alone in complete darkness. Inside, he holds the book and thinks that he no longer wants to cash in his chips. Looking at the anatomy book, he finds a new purpose for living. Now with a determined look, he swears he will get his revenge. 15 days pass and the solitary confinement door is finally opened. The same guard opens the cell and yells for him to get out if he's still alive. But upon looking inside, the officer is completely shocked by the scene. Our protagonist emerges from the darkness with a completely different physique. His body is much stronger and more defined after the time he spent in there. The guard asks what he did, and the guy says it was nothing much. With a sinister smile, he says he was just reflecting on his sins. The scene changes to the prison yard, where inmates are doing manual labor. Our protagonist walks with a new air of confidence through the area. One of the bullies who used to torment him spots him from a distance and is surprised. Immediately, the guy calls his buddies and tells them Tojo is in the house. So, a group of inmates surrounds the guy and threatens him, saying he's finished. But our hero doesn't seem the least bit intimidated and faces them all with a smile. Suddenly, Gariki, the gang leader, appears and says he got out of the hospital just for him. The brute points to the scar on his face and swears he will get his revenge. Without wasting any more time, he orders his goons to attack our protagonist. With that, the entire gang charges at once to take the guy down. Tojo, however, remains calm and analyzes his opponent's every move. With impressive agility, he dodges and attacks each of their weak points. Gariki is shocked to see his men getting beaten and yells at them not to mess around. With gritted teeth, our protagonist is focused on taking them all down. Even surrounded, our protagonist explodes in fury and unleashes all his hatred. With a quick step, he dodges the attacks and prepares for a counter-attack. With that, he lands a powerful punch that sends one of the goons flying. Gariki gets ticked off seeing the scene and yells at our hero before attacking. The two trade brutal blows on top of the building in a life or death fight. Our protagonist yells that he's going to finish him, showing all his rage. From there, he grabs Gariki and throws him from the top of the building. The boss screams in desperation as he falls toward the prison yard. From above, his men watch it all happen and scream their boss's name in panic. With that, Gariki splatters on the ground from the violent impact of the fall. But our hero doesn't stop and continues the beatdown even with the guy already defeated. In his mind, he remembers those who tormented and framed him. Given this, he swears he will crush them all with a look of pure hatred. At that moment, the guards finally arrive running to try and stop the fight. One of the officers desperately yells for Tojo to stop it immediately. The guard warns that if he takes out Gariki, he'll end up with the maximum sentence. Our protagonist thinks that's true and that he can't pass on without his revenge. With that, he grits his teeth and holds himself back from making a huge mistake. He then gets up and screams in rage while the others think he's crazy. Because of this, his sentence is increased by 20 years. and now everyone in the prison fears him. Sometime later we see Tojo in the infirmary, recovering and reading a book. A guard informs him that Gariki was transferred and is now in a wheelchair for life. The officer asks if his wounds have healed and says he'll be returning to his cell. Our protagonist realizes that no one wants to mess with a guy who isn't afraid of the end. So, he leaves the infirmary and walks calmly down the hall. Suddenly Tsuchiya, the old man, appears, saying they've met again. Tojo calls in the promise and asks the old man to teach him how to escape from that place. The old man lets out a little laugh and seems very pleased with our hero's attitude. Tsuchiya says that if he creates an opportunity, he'll help him escape, and Tojo asks what to do. With a sinister smile, the old man seems to have the whole plan already in his mind. The old man reveals that the plan is to cause a huge commotion inside the prison. Tojo asks what's next and questions if he can really trust the old man. Tsuchiya explains that the sewer grate in the kitchen has been loose for a long time. He even tells our hero to go check it out if he doesn't believe him. But the guy says he doesn't need to, and that he'll do anything to get out of there. With a determined look, he tells the old-timer he can leave it all to him. Soon after, a guard takes him back to his cell down the hall. Upon entering, Gariki's former goons are afraid of his presence. The officer locks the cell, and our protagonist is left alone with the inmates. Without wasting time, he challenges anyone who wants to avenge their former boss. The guys freak out and say it was a misunderstanding and that they hated Gariki. They switch sides and thank him for taking out the cell's bully. With that, they all declare him the new boss and swear total obedience. Our protagonist accepts his new position with a cold and calculating look. The scene changes, and now in the mess hall, he eats while the others serve him. His new followers even put the best part of the food on his tray. They treat him like a king and call him boss with a smile on their faces. Another inmate approaches and also offers his plate to the new leader. Our protagonist feels a bit awkward and says he can't eat that much. Meanwhile, at another table, prisoners are talking about the beatdown Gariki got. A brute named Yumi-sen complains that the new guy hasn't come to pay his respects yet. His goon calms him down and says he'll bring the guy over to their side. Yumi-san gives a little smirk at the idea of taking over the entire sector. So, the subordinate gets up and slams his fist on the table to intimidate. He approaches the table and asks if the guy is the Tojo everyone's talking about. The guy introduces himself as Yumi-san's man and questions his lack of respect. Our protagonist doesn't even flinch and asks if he has a problem with it. His new followers get scared and whisper that Yumi-san is very dangerous. Tojo stares at the big guy from a distance, already understanding the whole situation. Yumi-san tells another goon to teach the cheeky rookie some manners. The goon gets annoyed and slams the table, yelling that the new guy is getting too big for his britches. But our protagonist doesn't even wait and lands a solid punch right in the idiot's face. With a cold look, he shows that he's not messing around with anyone in there. Yumi-san is ticked off to see his man taking such a beating. Our hero's new followers are left with their jaws on the floor at the scene. The guy goes flying, breaks a table, and yells for his boss's help. Faced with this, Yumi-san gets up, furious, and curses at our protagonist. Our hero stands still as the brute approaches for a showdown. Everyone in the mess hall is in shock and backs away, afraid of the fight. The look of terror on the inmates' faces shows that things just got serious. No one there expected the new guy to be crazy enough to challenge the top dog. Even on the floor, the goon swears he'll finish Tojo, who doesn't even care. From there, the two stand face to face, and the size difference is glaring. The big guy says he's never seen anyone as arrogant as our hero. With a smirk, Tojo replies that now he's looking at one right now. Suddenly, one of the guards appears and yells for everyone to get back to eating. Yumi-san grumbles and warns with a furious look that our hero will regret this. He says he'll settle the score during tomorrow's break and leaves with his gang. Meanwhile, the goon who got beat up stays on the floor, crying for his boss. One of the new followers panics and warns that their gang will come in full force tomorrow. Our protagonist calls them cowards and says they just need to finish them all at once. His new companions are completely shocked by his fearless attitude. Given this, one of the guys musters up his courage and kneels before the new boss. He apologizes for being scared and says that since it has come to this, the guy yells that he'll fight with everything he's got tomorrow. And the others agree. Our hero watches his new followers fill with courage for the big fight. The scene changes to the cell during the night, with all the inmates sleeping peacefully. But Tojo gets up silently and grabs a bedsheet from one of the bunks. From there, he starts twisting the fabric with all his strength. With a determined look, he turns the sheet into a weapon for what's to come. The next day, during the break, the inmates are in the yard for their free time. At the same time, two guards are patrolling the area but don't seem very concerned. Suddenly, one of the prisoners calls an officer over to offer some high-quality smokes. With that, the officer accepts the offer and steps aside with his partner to a corner. From there, Yumi-san and his gang were already waiting for our hero to settle the score. So, the other inmates gather around to watch the big showdown. Faced with the situation, one of the followers yells and warns our protagonist that they've arrived. Our hero cracks a confident smile because everything is going according to his plan. He faces the rival gang and yells for them to show all their determination. Because of this, Yumi-san's goons charge toward Tojo's small group. The chaos begins and a full-blown brawl takes over the entire prison yard. Right off the bat, one of Yumi-san's men takes a serious beating and is knocked out with a punch. The fighting gets more and more intense, and our protagonist shows his full strength. Yumi-san is furious with the scene and jumps into the fray as well. From a distance, the guard notices the brawl and runs over, yelling that another fight has started. The fight gets ugly, and the guy lands a solid punch right in the middle of an enemy's face. Witnessing the scene, the guards run in with their batons to try and stop the chaos. Using his improvised weapon, our protagonist lands a critical blow on a rival's back. Yumi-san gets ticked off seeing his men getting beaten and grits his teeth in pure rage. One of the inmates grabs a guard's arm, preventing him from using his baton. Because of this, the officer yells that it's a violation and calls for backup on his radio. The yard turns into a battlefield with bodies on the ground and a lot of red liquid everywhere. But in the middle of the brawl, Yumi-san realizes something very strange is happening. He realizes that the one who started it all has simply vanished off the map. Meanwhile, our hero took advantage of the distraction to enter one of the buildings. Inside, Tsuchiya congratulates him and says they need to get out of there as fast as possible. With a smile on his face, the old man tells the guy to follow him for the next step. So, the two hurry through the corridors toward the kitchen. They finally arrive at the exact spot the old man had mentioned before. Without wasting a second, Tsuchiya starts lifting the heavy sewer grate. With a satisfied smile, Miss Tsuchiya manages to open the passage. Our protagonist just watches everything with a cold and determined look. From there, the old man enters the hole first and waits for our hero. The passage leads to a dark sewer with a pretty disgusting appearance. Without a second thought, Tojo steps into the dirty water to begin his escape. Tsuchiya warns that the smell is pretty bad, but that he needs to hang in there. Because of this, the guy plugs his nose to avoid the unbearable stench. He crawls through the filthy tunnel while rats scurry everywhere. The sewer is infested with rodents swimming in the rotten, dirty water. After a while, the old man announces that they've finally reached their destination. At the end of the tunnel, a huge metal gate blocks the path to freedom. Faced with this, our protagonist asks what they're going to do to get out. The old man calms him down and says he's already made all the arrangements, as he's been here before. He explains that he prepared the spot so that one of the bars could be removed. With that, Tsuchiya tells the guy to push hard so they can get through. So our protagonist obeys and pushes the iron bar with all his strength. Because of this, the gate finally gives way, and the path is clear for the duo's escape. But when he turns to leave, the old-timer stabs him in the back without mercy. The treacherous old man strikes our hero right in the chest with a sharp blade. With a sinister look, he says the guy's mission ends here, and that he's going to off him. Faced with this, our protagonist falls to the ground with no strength to react to the surprise attack. The traitorous old man turns and starts to walk out thinking he's won. But before he escapes, our hero grabs his ankle to stop him from fleeing. Tsuchiya is shocked and turns to see that the young man already has a knife to his throat. Our protagonist says the old-timer always told him to be suspicious of everything. Because of that, he hid the anatomy book in his chest, which saved him from the stabbing. The blade got stuck in the pages of the book that the old man himself had given him. The old man gets tense, and Tojo yells that he's learned not to trust anyone anymore. Tsuchiya scoffs and asks if the young man is going to challenge him with the methods he taught. Without hesitation, our protagonist lunges with the blade to finish the traitor. Our protagonist holds the blade he took from the old-timer with a look of pure rage. Tsuchiya then throws his knife and says he only has one chance to win the fight. With gritted teeth, the guy prepares for the combat that will decide his future. So, he throws the towel full of lime that he was carrying into the old man's face. Because of this, he takes advantage of the distraction and lands a solid punch on the traitor. The old man falls to the ground screaming in pain, unable to see properly. He desperately asks what it is and realizes he's been hit with lime. Our hero reveals that he already knew everything because a guy ratted out the old-timer's plan. Furious, Tsuchiya gets up and swears he'll take our protagonist down with him. But the guy shows him the vial of acid the old man was looking for to use on him. The old man remembers stashing the weapon, but our hero was smarter than him. The look of pure hatred on Tsuchiya's face shows that he was outplayed. He charges forward with everything and asks if the young man really thinks he can beat him. Without giving him time to react, our protagonist lands a brutal blow on the traitor. With that, he finishes with a powerful kick that sends the old-timer flying. On the ground, the old man admits he was naive and that our hero was right. Our protagonist replies that he won't make the same mistake of trusting someone again. The traitor laments being defeated by a rookie like him. Without mercy, our hero finishes the traitor with a precise blow to the throat. Immediately after, he pours the mysterious liquid on the old-timer's body. With a cold look, he thanks the traitor for making him stronger. With that, he finally leaves the sewer and continues on his path to freedom. Outside, he sees daylight and the city in the distance for the first time. The guy takes a deep breath and enjoys the long-awaited smell of freedom. From there, he takes out the meat he used as food and bait during the escape. With that, he throws it all into the water, as he won't need it anymore. Now stronger, he swears his revenge is just beginning. The scene changes to a restaurant where some police officers are eating. One of the officers complains that they still haven't caught the prison escapee. The owner of the place then asks if there weren't two fugitives who escaped. The officer explains that they found the young man's body, but the old-timer vanished. Our protagonist, in disguise, overhears everything with a slight smirk on his face. He remembers taking the ID from the old-timer's uniform before escaping. With that, he poured the acid on the traitor's body and placed the ID on top. From there, the police assumed the burned body was our hero's. The restaurant owner laments the guy's tragic demise, unaware of the truth. But one of the officers says he deserved it because he committed a terrible crime. Meanwhile, our protagonist eats peacefully, pretending not to hear the conversation. The older officer reveals that the young man's parents stole the autopsy report. Upon hearing this, Tojo's expression changes completely, and he becomes alert. He realizes that his parents were eliminated because of that report. So, he gets up from the table, determined to find that document. Suddenly, the older officer calls him over for a chat before he leaves. Our protagonist turns and faces the officer without showing any reaction. The guard warns him to be careful, because a dangerous fugitive is on the loose. Our protagonist replies to the guard that he got the message, with a serious expression. The scene then shows us a waiter walking down the street, calmly whistling. But our hero is watching him from afar, following the guy's every step on the sidewalk. The guy enters a dark alley and wonders what he's going to eat when he gets home. Suddenly, Tojo appears behind him and threatens him with a knife to his neck. The guy panics and says he has no money as he's just an employee. Our protagonist tells him to shut up and answer his questions truthfully. With that, he questions who instructed him to frame Gaku Tojo in the past. From there, Tojo is surprised by the answer and asks what he means by, "You too." The guy threatens him, saying he'll get hurt just like his friend Yuji Suzuki. Upon hearing that, Tojo remembers his partner and is shocked by the news. In a fit of pure rage, our protagonist shoves the blade deep into the traitor's leg. The guy falls to the ground screaming in pain while Tojo demands to know who hurt Yuji. Desperate, the man looks at him and asks if he's the real Tojo. Our hero pressures him and demands to know who framed him and who hurt his friend. The guy refuses to talk and says the mastermind is too powerful for him. Out of patience, our protagonist lands another solid punch to his face. With the knife to his throat, he gives the guy one last chance to open his mouth. Scared, the guy reveals that a woman named Rei Amano paid and threatened him. Our hero gets ticked off hearing the name and questions if it's really Rei Amano. The guy explains that she was Mayo's best friend and hung out with the wrong crowd. With his eyes red with hatred, he screams, demanding the woman's location. The guy tells him she works at the Grandia nightclub and should be there now. Our protagonist turns to leave and the man begs for his life. He pleads not to be offed and says he'll cooperate with whatever he asks. But our hero doesn't listen and gags the guy to keep him quiet. With a cold look, he says he won't take him out now and tells him to wait. Without a second thought, the guy kicks him hard into a well. From above, he warns that if anything goes wrong, he'll starve to death in there. From there, our protagonist walks away, leaving the traitor behind in the dark. The man is desperate at the bottom of the well with no way to escape. The scene changes to an isolated house in the middle of nowhere at night. There, our protagonist watches his friend Yuji, who is all beaten up. Yuji drinks and laments that he couldn't avenge his friend and is a total wreck. Our hero watches everything from a distance with a serious and determined look. He then remembers when Yuji used to defend him from bullies in their childhood. In the memory, his friend promises that no one will ever mess with him again. Back in the present, Yuji swears he will prove his friend's innocence. With that, the guy passes out from exhaustion, and because of all his injuries, Tojo decides he can't involve him anymore and that he'll handle everything himself. From there, he goes to the Grandia nightclub to find this Rei Amano. In front of the place, he sees a brute leaving with the woman he was looking for. The young woman says goodbye to the client and promises an even better night next time. With that, she looks at her watch and decides it's time to go home. As she walks down the street, our protagonist starts following her closely. With the knife in hand, he prepares to approach the woman from behind on the street. But accidentally, the woman throws her purse back and hits him right in the face. She answers her phone and agrees to meet someone in 15 minutes at the same place. Our protagonist continues to follow the woman closely without being noticed in the crowd. From there, she enters a place called Net Paradise. and he watches her from across the way. Inside, she meets with a thug named Hiroto Kagami and his goons. With that, our hero grabs a can of soda and realizes this is his only chance. He enters the room, and the woman complains about the delay, thinking it's someone else. But when she turns around, she's in shock and asks who he is and how he got in. Our protagonist holds up the can and says he just came to deliver a soda. So, he offers the drink to the woman, who reaches out to take it. The moment she goes to grab it, he grips her wrist with all his strength. Immediately after, he pulls her in and threatens her with the knife to her neck, telling her not to scream. With a furious look, he gets closer and asks if she recognizes him. The woman is terrified when she realizes it's Tojo and asks how he's alive. Tojo pressures her and asks why she framed him, but the woman denies the accusation. She explains that it cost millions to frame him, and if she had that kind of money, she wouldn't be here. With that, our protagonist questions her to find out who the real mastermind was. The woman warns him that it's better he doesn't know, because the guy is untouchable and tells him to run. But our hero presses the knife against her neck, making a small cut. With a crazed look, he gives her one last chance to talk or meet her end right there. Scared, she finally reveals that the mastermind of it all was Koki Yoshida. Our protagonist is in shock and wonders why Koki Yoshida would do that. The woman points to the door and warns that Kagami's goons are waiting outside. She begs him to leave and says she's told him everything she knew about the case. But our hero says he's already lost everything and that now all he has left is revenge. The scene changes to a memory where the two seem to get along very well in the past. Back in the present, the woman crouches down and starts writing something on a piece of paper. He then pins her against the wall and asks if she's on his side or against him. With that, she hands him the paper and promises to explain everything later, asking him to go. The paper had the woman's phone number written on it so they could talk. Our protagonist says he'll call tomorrow, and that if she betrays him, he'll show no mercy. As he leaves, he comes face to face with Kagami and his goons in the hallway. He walks past the group in pink suits, trying not to draw any attention. A drop of sweat runs down his face, showing the tension of the moment. For a moment, our hero and the gang leader exchange a very intense look. Kagami watches him walk away and thinks he's seen that face somewhere before. With that, a goon asks about his neck, but he makes up an excuse. Back in his room, Tojo lies on the bed and starts thinking about everything that went down. He remembers Koki Yoshida and Mayu together, looking like a happy couple. The image of Mayo and Rayamano having fun together also comes back to his mind. The guy recalls the day he drank too much and completely passed out at the table. In this memory, he sees Yoshida and Mayo leaving hand in hand while he was asleep. With tears in his eyes, our protagonist wonders why he took everything from him. Filled with hatred, he clenches the bedsheet and screams Yoshida's name in his mind. The next day, our protagonist goes to a payphone to make a call. So, he arranges to meet the woman in a park at night to talk. On the other end of the line, Rayamano agrees to the meeting with a serious expression. Later, she is seen at a karaoke bar with a client, trying to hide her tension. From there, the woman arrives at the agreed-upon location and walks alone through the park. Our hero was already waiting for her in hiding and reveals himself to start the conversation. Without beating around the bush, he faces her and asks exactly how his parents passed away. The woman reveals that they got the autopsy report and were going to request a new trial. But Yoshida got scared and faked an accident to get rid of them both at once. Faced with this, our protagonist remembers the tragic scene and is devastated. With tears in her eyes, Rayamano apologizes for everything that happened to him. Full of rage, our hero slaps her across the face and screams in hatred. Even after being hit, she says she wants to tell the whole truth as a form of redemption. He grabs her and demands to know what was in the report and how Mayo really passed away. The woman reveals that they found traces of 3 men in her, but none of them were his. Our protagonist is completely shocked by the bombshell revelation. The woman says that Mio accepted money from Yoshida and went with them willingly. In the flashback, Yoshida gives Mio some cash and asks her to entertain his friends. The girl, with a seductive look, asks what kind of entertainment he had in mind. Crying, Rai reveals that they forced her to use some substances, and she couldn't handle it. The scene shows one of the guys offering the girl a strange powder at the party. Without giving her a chance to refuse, he forces the woman to consume the weird substance. From there, the situation gets really heavy, and they take advantage of the girl. Suddenly, they realize she's not moving, and they panic. One of the guys screams in desperation when he sees that the woman has stopped breathing. Our hero is heartbroken and can't believe Mayo was that kind of person. Angrily, he grabs her tightly and asks why they framed him then. She says someone had to take the blame, and he was the perfect target for the setup. Our protagonist glares at her seriously and asks if all of that is true. Rai reveals, crying, that she was also threatened by Yoshida and that she hates the guy. With a determined look, our protagonist swears he will finish Yoshida, but the woman warns him that his father hired 8 bodyguards to protect him. She explains that they are elite professionals, and that he would never get close to the target, the woman still tries to convince him, saying his parents would have wanted him to live. Our hero ignores her and warns that he'll spare her for now, but she should stay out of it. From there, he tells her to come with him and leave the park without explaining. On the way, he reveals that he can't let her go until everything is resolved. With that, the guy asks for her cell phone, and the woman hands it over without complaint. Suddenly, he throws her hard into the same well where he left the other guy. From below, she yells that she deserves it but begs him not to lose his life. With a cold look, he warns that if he bites the dust, she'll starve to death with the other one. Faced with this, the woman sits at the bottom of the well and accepts her punishment. The scene changes to a nightclub where Yoshida is having fun with several girls. But from afar, our protagonist watches him with a look of pure hatred and vengeance. In front of the stage, he faces Yoshida and his bodyguards, ready for whatever comes. Yoshida calls one of the girls to go with him to the nightclub's restroom. The woman likes the idea and calls him bold for wanting to do that there. So, he tells his bodyguards to wait while he takes the girl. Our protagonist sees this as his only chance to attack without being seen. But one of the security guards stops him and tells him to stay right where he is. Our hero makes up an excuse and asks if he can't even go to the restroom. The brute stares at him for a moment with a very suspicious expression. Finally, the guard lets him pass and tells him to get on with it. Arriving at the restroom, he hears some strange noises coming from a stall. With that, the guy knocks on the door to get the attention of the couple inside. Yoshida yells from inside and tells him not to interrupt while our hero prepares. Without wasting time, he breaks down the door with a powerful kick. The girl who was with him gets scared by the sudden and unexpected invasion. Yoshida gets ticked off and asks who the heck he is, and if he wants to get off right there. Our protagonist advances with a knife in hand to finally hit his target. The woman who was with him screams in terror as our hero attacks without mercy. With a hand on his neck, Yoshida gets ticked off and asks what he thinks he's doing. Without giving him time to react, our protagonist lands a solid punch right in his face. Immediately after, he presses him against the wall with a knife to his neck. Upon closer inspection, the rich guy is shocked and recognizes him as the real Tojo. At that moment, the guards arrive, and Yoshida yells for them to get the intruder. To escape, our hero uses the toilet as a support to jump over the wall. With an agile leap, he goes over the stall and surprises the security guards. He lands on the other side, while the brutes are left not knowing what to do. Without a second thought, our protagonist throws himself against the window and breaks the glass. Seeing his target fleeing, Yoshida offers 2 million to whoever can catch him. From there, the security guards jump through the broken window to start the chase. Our protagonist runs desperately through the streets with the pair of goons on his tail. The brutes yell for him to stop, but our hero pays them no mind. Suddenly, the guards lose sight of him and decide to search further ahead. Hiding among the trash, our protagonist manages to shake off the security guards. He laments getting so close, but now his identity has been revealed. Even so, the guy gets up because he knows there's still a chance to get his revenge. The scene cuts to the night in front of a luxurious building in the city. With that, a fancy car parks right at the entrance of the mysterious place. Inside, Yoshida's father asks if they are sure it was really Tojo. Furious, the rich guy yells that he will finish our hero with his own hands. Meanwhile, back at the well, the situation is not looking good for the prisoners. The guy and the woman complain that they're dying of thirst at the bottom of the hole. Suddenly, a rope is thrown down, surprising the traitorous duo. From there, our protagonist climbs down the rope carrying a bag of food. Scared, the woman approaches and asks if he managed to finish Yoshida. Our protagonist turns his face and says with a tone of defeat that he failed. The other guy crawls on the floor and begs for water because he's going to expire there. With that, our hero throws the bag with water and food for them to manage. Desperate, the guy chugs the water to quench his thirst. Suddenly, our protagonist turns around with a very serious expression on his face. Amano's cell phone starts to ring, and it was Koki Yoshida calling her. With that, our hero tells the duo to be quiet, or he'll finish them both. On the other end of the line, Yoshida yells, asking where the heck Amano has been. Our protagonist answers the phone but doesn't say a single word. Suspicious, the rich guy understands that Tojo is with Amano and questions him about it. Pretending to be concerned, he asks why the guy ran off so quickly and where he is. On the other end, Yoshida offers to free them both and says that even his friend is there. Upon hearing that, our protagonist gets ticked off and demands that he release Yuji. The rich guy proposes a deal and asks if he would turn himself in if he let his friend go. With that, our hero offers a trade and says he has Azuma and Amano with him. But Yoshida couldn't care less and says their lives are worthless to him. Our protagonist remains silent, not knowing what to do to save his friend. So, he reveals that he has a copy of the report and can prove his guilt. On the other end, Yoshida doubts it and says that if he had the report, he would have already turned him in. With a furious look, the rich guy asks what our hero really wants with all of this. Our protagonist screams from the bottom of the well that he wants his name cleared. and that he's not going to perish. With that, he thinks he wanted to finish the guy, but he has no other choice at the moment. Yoshida proposes a meeting to see the copy and offers him money to disappear. From the bottom of the well, our hero listens to the proposal while the woman watches him in silence. So, he agrees to the meeting and asks the rich guy to send the location tomorrow. Immediately after, he hangs up the phone, ending the call with his great enemy. Faced with this, the two prisoners panic and yell that it's a trap. Our protagonist calmly replies that he knows, but there's no other way. From there, he throws the cell phone on the ground and warns that he might not come back alive. The woman holds him and warns that he'll be taken out since he doesn't even have the copy of the report. He looks at her and says he can't involve Yuji anymore and that this is his last chance. The scene changes, and our hero chooses new clothes with the help of a mysterious woman. With a new look, he walks down the street while a chef looks for his knife. With that, he enters a store and buys 2 bottles of a very strong drink. Soon after, the scene takes us to an abandoned and completely destroyed building. Inside, our protagonist prepares next to a bonfire with his new weapons. So, he starts wrapping his hands for the big fight to come. In front of the fire, he kneels as if performing some kind of ritual. From there, the guy lowers his head until his forehead touches the ground. He bows in a gesture of deep respect and also of farewell. With the city in the background, he seems to be preparing for his final battle. He asks his parents for strength and swears he will avenge them by finishing Yoshida. Our hero stands up and faces the city as snow begins to fall. Shortly after, Yoshida's guards are shocked to see that he actually showed up. Alone, our protagonist walks toward the army of goons. From above, the rich guy watches everything with a victorious smile on his face. He orders his men to make sure the intruder doesn't leave there alive. Without wasting time, one of the goons charges to attack him from behind with everything he's got. From above, Yoshida watches our hero surrounded by his armed goons. With a furious shout, the guy calls for him to come down and settle things. But the rich guy gives a little smile and invites him inside the building to talk. From there, the brutes prepare for the attack at the entrance of the place. Tojo then demands that they release Yuji first, or he'll leave right away. With a gesture, Yoshida gives the order for his men to comply with the request. Soon after, Yuji is thrown out and assaulted by the goons. Our protagonist runs to help his friend and says he keeps his word. One of the guards questions if letting him go wouldn't make them lose their advantage. Yoshida explains that with Yuji injured, our hero wouldn't be able to escape. His friend is shocked to see him alive, and Tojo tells him to leave the rest to him. But Yuji refuses to be a coward and yells that they're in this together. From above, the rich guy gets annoyed with the delay and tells them to get inside already. His friend holds him back and warns that the place is a trap full of enemies. Our hero yells for Yoshida to let his friend go because he's going in. Even so, his friend yells that he's not leaving and that he'll handle it. Our hero says goodbye and tells Yuji to live a good life and visit his grave. As his friend is dragged away, he prepares for what's to come. With that, he turns and enters the building to face his destiny head-on. Inside, Yoshida comes down the stairs with an air of superiority and confidence. Upon entering, our protagonist walks through the doors as if nothing could stop him. His eyes glow red with pure rage, ready for revenge. The goons surround him, and one of them prepares to attack with a bat. Witnessing the scene, Yoshida asks if he brought the copy of the report. Our protagonist replies that he's not an idiot to bring something so important. With that, the rich guy gets annoyed and yells for him to stop messing around. From there, the brutes prepare to attack the guy all at once. But our hero reveals 2 bottles and invites them to have a little fun. Yoshida is confused and asks if that's some kind of gift. The 2 bottles of strong liquor seem to be our hero's new weapon. But suddenly, a new character approaches the location with firm steps. At the door, Yoshida's father appears with a less than friendly expression on his face. The rich guy is in shock and asks what his father is doing there. In a serious tone, the man says he came to clean up his son's mess. With that, his goons bring Yuji and Imano tied up inside the building. Our protagonist is stunned to see his acquaintances captured. The traitorous duo is gagged and can't say a single word. The father scolds him and says to do the job properly without leaving any loose ends. Yoshida questions if they should eliminate everyone, but the father cuts him off. With that, the old man calls him knave and asks if he really trusts Imano. He then reveals that she was the one who leaked the report to Tojo's parents. Faced with the revelation, our hero looks at the woman with a surprised expression. Yoshida is furious with the betrayal and slaps her hard across the face. Full of hatred, he yells that he gave her a lot of money and was betrayed in the end. But Imano is unfazed and yells that her heart isn't rotten like his. The woman yells that she couldn't stand to see Tojo's parents suffering and looking for witnesses anymore. Furious, Yoshida kicks her hard and yells that he'll bury her along with our hero. At that moment, the rich guy's father approaches and asks if he is Manabu Tojo. Our protagonist replies that the guy made him go through all that and doesn't even recognize him. The old man gives a mocking smile and says he doesn't need to know insignificant insects. Immediately after, he gets straight to the point and asks where the copy of the autopsy report is. With a little smile, our hero replies that he'll never get that information. The two stare each other down in a moment of pure tension before the final confrontation begins. The man then signals for his goons to prepare for the imminent attack. He even boasts that he has very powerful forces behind all of this. Because of this, he warns that it doesn't matter where the report is because it all ends here. Before leaving, he turns with a malevolent smile and says he has something to tell him. The old man points to two goons and reveals that they were the ones who took out his parents. Upon hearing that, Tojo's expression changes completely to one of pure hatred. With that, he clenches his fist with all his might, ready to finish everyone there. Full of hatred, our protagonist screams Manjiro Yoshida's name with all his strength. He yells that even a cornered insect fights back and throws the bottle he was holding. With that, the bottle shatters on the floor, spreading the liquid everywhere. Because of this, one of the goons slips on the liquid and loses his balance completely. The brute falls hard on the floor in the middle of the puddle. As he tries to get up, he realizes his face is covered in the liquid. Seizing the chance, our hero charges forward and lands a solid hit on the first goon. The rich guy and his father realize it's oil and call him a coward. Without mercy, he uses his knife to finish off the first target of his revenge. Immediately after, he hits him with a brutal blow to make sure he doesn't get up again. Yoshida gets ticked off and orders all his men to attack the guy at once, but the goons slip on the oil and fall one by one, unable to fight. With that, our protagonist runs toward a huge painting on the wall. From there, he uses the wall as support to gain momentum and attack again. In the air, he lands a powerful spinning kick on another goon, sending him flying. Our protagonist lands on the ground with the knife in his hand, ready for the next move. Yoshida yells furiously, calling the guy a show-off and orders his men to finish him. With that, two more goons run toward our hero for the attack. But our protagonist was expecting this and prepares for a new surprise. From there, he throws a mysterious powder that blinds all the enemies around. With his knife in hand, he prepares to strike in the confusion of the dust. Amid the smoke, he watches the goons, completely lost and disoriented. In a swift move, he advances and strikes one of the brutes with his blade. Covered in red liquid, he turns ready for the next opponent. One of the guards tries to clean his eyes, but the powder prevents him from seeing clearly. Because of this, he becomes an easy target and takes a fatal blow to the back. Soon after, the other goons prepare to attack all at once. The fight continues intensely, with our hero fighting against several at the same time. Yoshida gets ticked off seeing his men getting beaten and doesn't know what to do. Faced with this, his father calms him down and tells him to get the drink quickly. The rich guy understands the plan and says water doesn't remove lime, but alcohol does. Suddenly, Amano breaks free and grabs Yoshida's leg to interfere. The rich guy yells for her to let go while the woman holds on with all her strength. Out of patience, he kicks her hard and throws her aside to get rid of her. Even on the ground, she thinks that this is the least she can do to help. The remaining goons prepare for the final attack against our hero. Meanwhile, he continues to fight and takes down a few more enemies in the smoke. Yoshida's men use the alcohol to clean the powder from their faces. The rich guy's father calms them down and tells them to be careful with the oil on the floor. With that, the goons spread out to surround the guy from all sides. One of the brutes jumps over the stairs to attack our hero, but he defends himself and catches the enemy's blade with his wrapped hands. With a malevolent smile, Yoshida's father yells for them to attack now. So the other goons advance to attack at the same time. But Yuji appears out of nowhere and hits one of the guys with a brutal blow. With that, Yuji continues to charge at the goon, landing a direct hit. But another brute prepares to attack Yuji from behind with a knife. So our protagonist acts quickly and stops the blow by holding the enemy back. With a brutal move, he finishes the guy, saving his friend's life. Yoshida gets ticked off and regrets not finishing Yuji before all this. Soon after, our hero blocks another goon's attack with his arm. Even injured, he doesn't stop and continues to fight the remaining enemies. He charges at the bald guy and dodges the blows with great agility. Meanwhile, Yoshida threatens Yuji, who challenges him without showing any fear. Our protagonist focuses and prepares for a new attack strategy. From there, he throws his jacket on the floor to distract all the goons. The brutes approach him, ready for the final and decisive attack. With a smile, he lights a lighter and asks if they want a little fire. The goons are confused while the small flame ignites. Because of the oil on the floor, they are all engulfed in a large blaze. Taking advantage of the confusion, Yuji lands a powerful kick to Yoshida's face. Our protagonist seizes the chance and charges at the rich guy with everything he's got. With a brutal blow, he hits the enemy with a bat right in the middle of his head. On the ground, Yoshida can't believe it all ended like this. With his foot on his face, our protagonist stumps down hard to humiliate him. He then prepares for the final blow and asks if he has any last words, but the rich guy's father uses Amano as a hostage and threatens to finish her. With a knife to the woman's neck, he tries to stop our hero from getting closer. Desperate, Yoshida begs for his life and says he was wrong about everything. He even promises to clear Tojo's name and pay whatever it takes to live. The old man proposes a deal but warns that he will show no mercy if anything happens. Our hero replies that he's not afraid to check out and that he doesn't care about the threat. Faced with this, Yoshida tells him to finish it and take the blame for him. But our protagonist surprises him and demands that he hand over all his money. The rich guy agrees and says he even has gold bars stashed away to hand over. Yoshida goes up the stairs, and his father thinks he's going to get a weapon from the safe. The old man tells our protagonist to take the money and get out of there quickly. But our hero exchanges a look with Amano, and it seems they have a plan. With that, the woman lands a powerful elbow strike right in the old man's stomach. From there, our protagonist seizes the chance and grabs the knife that fell. Without wasting time, he grabs the man's hair to finish the job, and with a precise blow, he finishes the old man who orchestrated all the chaos. The old man falls lifeless to the floor as a lot of red liquid spreads across the tile. With the end of the fight, Amano's expression fills with a mix of relief and sadness. Witnessing the scene, our protagonist goes to help Amano up and untie her, but she desperately warns him that there are firearms hidden in the house. At that moment, Yoshida appears with a pistol and yells that he's going to finish them all. The rich guy comes down the stairs with a bag and yells that he brought the money he promised. But when he gets to the bottom floor, he sees the bodies of his father and his goons. Desperate, he yells that Tojo broke the deal and swears he will crush him. Desperate, Yuji yells for Yoshida, drawing his attention to the other side of the room. With that, he starts firing the pistol to create a major distraction. On the floor, we see two tied-up goons and a cell phone playing the same voice from before. It turns out it was all just a recorded audio to trick the rich guy and his men. Because of this, our protagonist takes the chance and points his weapon at Yoshida. Without a second's hesitation, he shoots, and a lot of red liquid splatters everywhere. Immediately after, he advances and lands a solid punch right in the middle of the rich guy's face. Our hero slams him to the ground to finish the fight once and for all. Holding his face, he screams, asking why the scumbag eliminated his old man. With a crazed smile, he says he'll wipe out the entire family to find his parents. From there, our protagonist finishes the rich guy with several blows without any mercy. Witnessing the scene, Yuji and Amano watch the enemy's body lying lifeless on the floor. The blade, covered in red liquid, falls to the ground, ending the long battle. With tears in his eyes, our hero screams that he finally managed to avenge his parents. In the background, his friend and the woman watch him in silence with a very serious expression. The scene changes and now Yuji is helping Amano walk as they are both badly injured. Our protagonist asks them to leave first because he still has something to do. Soon after, he finds a safe full of money and gold bars. But in the midst of all that cash, he finds a mysterious envelope. So, the guy picks up the paper with a surprised look on his face. Outside, Yuji and the woman walk away from the mansion as the snow falls. The two acquaintances walk with expressions of concern and fear. From there, our hero leaves the house carrying a large bag full of money. He hands over the cash and tells them to hide and not contact anyone else. Amano says she doesn't deserve it because she ended up betraying his trust. With a calm look, he says she was also threatened and that he forgives everything. Yuji then asks if our protagonist isn't going to run away with them. With a determined look, our hero replies that he can't run from anything anymore. His friend holds him and says he'll stay with him even if he's convicted. Our hero says he has a plan and that even if it fails, he won't involve them. Amano gets desperate and yells for him not to do that under any circumstances. Our protagonist asks for just one night to resolve everything and promises he'll come back alive. The woman tries to go back but Yuji holds her, saying he can't leave him alone. His friend stops her and says she'll only get in the way, and that they should trust him. Alone, our hero watches the two walk away in the falling snow outside. The scene changes to a man in a suit standing in front of someone lying on the ground. Far away, Yuji and Amano hide under a bridge in the darkness of the night. The guy then questions what the heck was inside that mysterious envelope. The woman explains that they are documents proving the corruption of the city's powerful figures. Yuji is confused as to why something so important would be in that house. She reveals that Yoshida was the deputy police chief, and that it wasn't hard for him. Because of this, he had access to all the dirty secrets of the city's big shots. As they talk, the woman takes the opportunity to tend to the guy's wounds. Amano says that because he had the evidence, the powerful protected him and let him do whatever he wanted. Yuji gets angry and says that if he goes alone, he'll be taken out, and decides to go after him. Amano holds him back and calms him down, saying Tojo's plan might work, but Yuji doesn't understand. She explains that Yoshida was also a problem for the powerful people who wanted him gone. Therefore, our protagonist's only chance of survival is to ally with them. The scene cuts to a compromising photo of a man with two women in bed. Meanwhile, our hero appears in a suit with a serious and determined expression. Carrying a bag, he climbs a long staircase toward a mansion. With each step, he gets closer to his final destination without showing any fear. At the top of the staircase, some security guards were already waiting for him at the entrance. The guards block him and our protagonist says he wants to see Mr. Goda. One of the brutes informs him that the boss is resting and tells him to leave, but our hero is unfazed and says the matter needs to be resolved today. The guard gets annoyed and cracks his knuckles, asking if the guy wants to get off. Without being intimidated, our protagonist starts to unzip the bag he was carrying. From inside, he pulls out Yoshida's head and throws it on the ground to shock everyone. The security guards are terrified and ask what he's planning to do. With a cold look, he tells the guard to let them know that Yoshida Manjiro is history. Faced with this, the security guard gets completely spooked and asks him to wait there. 2 minutes pass, and a voice from inside the mansion says to let him in. So our protagonist is taken to a courtyard full of other goons. One of the men then opens a fancy wooden door for him to pass through. Inside, a bald, tattooed man is drinking tea while a woman serves him at the table. The boss picks up his cup with a calm expression and prepares to drink. He takes a sip and asks directly if the guy is the Tojo everyone's talking about. Our hero is surprised by the question and wants to know how he knows his name. The bald man says that Yoshida took his men to deal with him, and that's how he connected the dots. Faced with this, the boss gets ticked off and asks why he eliminated his men and is now asking for help. Our protagonist stands still, surrounded by the brutes without showing any reaction. He challenges the bald man and says that if he really cared, he should finish him right there. The boss finds him interesting and courageous and asks for a good reason to keep him alive. From there, our hero shows the envelope and asks if that serves as a reason. The woman takes the envelope from our hero's hand with a slight smirk. With that, she walks over and hands the paper to the boss, who is watching everything. The bald man opens the envelope and finds a very compromising photo inside. Faced with this, he gives a little smile and asks if the guy thinks he can threaten him. Our protagonist says he has worse evidence, and the boss threatens him back. With a cold look, our hero asks if he knows how many people he's eliminated today. The boss thinks it's a threat and says the guy is not on his level. Our protagonist replies that it's not a threat because he has nothing left to lose. He also warns that if he doesn't return by midnight, the evidence will go to the police. The bald man doesn't care and asks what he has to do with this whole situation. Our hero explains that he will be the main suspect in everything that happened there. Because of this, the boss's expression changes, and he becomes visibly tense at the idea. The bald man understands that the guy didn't come to ask for help, but to take him down with him. Our protagonist offers a deal for him to use the evidence and make more money. The boss laughs and says the guy is a fun kid just like him. From there, the boss offers our hero a drink as a sign of their agreement. Without a second thought, the guy chugs the cup and drinks it all in one go. With that, he returns the cup to the woman who is serving their table. Goda then says he'll clean up the mess, but on the condition that Tojo works for him. Our protagonist gives a slight smirk, accepting the boss's proposal. So he bows and swears he will dedicate his life to the new boss. With the deal sealed, Goda calls his goon Muto to give the new orders. The long-haired man gets the message and leaves the room calmly. Soon after, the boss gets up and grabs his cane to leave. He also tells the woman to treat the guy well and let him spend the night at the mansion. But our protagonist reminds him of the threat to send everything to the police at midnight. The bald man gives a slight smirk because he already knew the guy's whole plan. With that, he reveals that he knew the threat was just a bluff from the beginning. Our hero smiles and apologizes for being found out so easily. The scene changes and now he is taken to a guest room to rest. In the room, the woman starts to prepare for the night with a very seductive look. With that, she gets ready to try and seduce the new guest of the mansion. The woman says that Goda told her to treat him very well and calls him over. But our protagonist approaches and seems unfazed by the scene. Faced with this, the woman gets dressed again, not understanding the guy's reaction. He apologizes and says he's very tired and asks her to leave him alone. Because of this, the woman is left with an intrigued expression at his attitude. Alone, our hero takes the opportunity to relax in a hot bath. In another room, the boss waits as the woman approaches to give her report. She tells Goda that, as he expected, the guy barely looked at her. Smoking a cigar, the bald man says he's not normal because few can control their desires. The woman then asks if she should continue to keep an eye on our protagonist. Goda says he's useful, but if he betrays him it will be fatal, and they need to find his weak spot. With a serious look, he wonders if he can really trust making him a pawn. So, the woman gets the message and agrees with her boss's plan. Lying in bed, our protagonist finally gets some rest. The scene changes to the outside of the mansion, showing that a new day has begun. Suddenly, our hero's eyes open with a look of full alert. So, he sits up in bed, startled as if he had a nightmare. The woman from the previous night was already there and cleans his face, wishing him a good morning. He thanks her for everything and says he needs to go, but the woman holds his arm. With that, she grabs a remote and asks him to look at something important on the television. The news reports a fire at Yoshida's house that resulted in 3 fatalities. Our protagonist is impressed with Gota's speed and asks about the other 8. The woman explains that the guards were criminals and that no one will miss them. From there, she gets closer and says they should enjoy the moment together. But our hero changes the subject and with a serious look asks what her name is. With a little smile, she introduces herself as I am Munakata and seems to like his attitude. He apologizes to I am and says he needs to take care of a few things first. Faced with this, our protagonist leaves, leaving the woman with a not-so-happy face. Back at the bridge, our protagonist approaches Yuji and Amano, who are waiting for him. Upon seeing him, the woman is surprised and relieved while his friend wakes up. Without a second thought, she runs and hugs him tightly, happy that he's safe. Amano says she knew he would make it back alive from that huge mess. With a calm look, he tells them that from now on, they are no longer being hunted. Because of this, the woman gets emotional and starts to cry while hugging the guy. Yuji also cries with happiness and asks why she's crying over good news. The scene changes to an old building where the trio seems to be living now. Inside, a table full of food shows that they are celebrating the moment. Yuji is impressed and says he didn't know the woman had a talent for cooking. Amano tells him not to underestimate her, as she's been living alone since she was 8 years old. From there, the trio toasts with their glasses to celebrate the new life they will have. So, they sit down at the table to enjoy the meal together and in peace. After a while, Amano asks Tojo what his plans are for the future. Our protagonist reveals that with the money, they can open a small business. Yuji gets all excited and asks if they're going to be presidents now. Amano says she'll help with whatever he decides to do. Yuji then asks the woman if she's going back to work at the nightclub. She explains that her brother is sick and that, thanks to Tojo, she can start over. With that, they make another toast to celebrate everyone's new beginning. Sometime later, Yuji is already passed out on the couch after all the celebration. Our protagonist is also lying down but can't sleep properly. Suddenly, he becomes alert upon sensing a presence in the room. Amano appears and says she has nowhere to go and asks if she can stay there. Our hero says there's only one bed and a couch and that he'll sleep on the floor. But the woman stops him and touches his shoulder to get his attention. She says his wounds haven't healed and invites him to sleep in the bed. From there, the two lie down together but keep a certain distance. Meanwhile, Yuji continues to snore loudly on the couch, oblivious to everything. Suddenly, Amano turns over and reveals that she's been interested in him since school. The next morning, our protagonist is sleeping peacefully next to Amano. On the street, Yuji asks if Amano is really going to live with them while someone watches them. Our hero confirms and says she has nowhere to go and that they need a bed. With that, Yuji is happy and says the money they got will be enough for them to live well for a long time. But suddenly a group of brutes appears and Yuji is confused by the situation. The leader of the guys stares at them and asks his goons if it's really them. His friend then asks him if he knows those guys, with a worried look. Scared, Yuji pulls him and says it's better not to get involved with those people. The blonde guy provokes him and says he went easy on him the last time they met. Our protagonist then asks if they were the ones who hurt his friend that time. Desperate, his partner yells that he didn't do anything and asks him not to start a fight. The guy gets closer and threatens Yuji, saying he'll finish him if he sees him again. Faced with this, the brute stares at the two with a look of pure contempt and anger. Out of patience, the guy asks our hero if he has a problem and slaps him across the face. But our protagonist doesn't think twice and retaliates with a brutal punch to his face. Because of this, the brute goes flying from the force of the blow and falls hard. On the ground, the guy spits out a lot of red liquid, not believing what just happened. His partners run to help him while the blonde guy curses our hero with hatred. Faced with this, our protagonist opens his shirt and shows his body full of scars. The two goons are visibly scared by his intimidating appearance. Even after taking a hit, the blonde guy yells for his men not to just stand there and attack. With that, the duo of brutes charges at our hero with everything they've got. Our protagonist just gives a little smirk, as he was expecting it. The two goons try to hit him at the same time, but he's prepared. So, he dodges the first punch with impressive speed. Immediately after, he counterattacks with a brutal blow that takes the enemy down instantly. With a look of pure fury, he shows that he's not messing around with anyone. The other goon tries to land a punch, but our hero is much faster than him. Because of this, he easily catches the guy's fist, stopping the blow in mid-air. From there, he uses the enemy's strength to throw him hard onto the ground. The blonde guy is completely shocked by our protagonist's strength. Scared, he asks them to stop and says it was all their fault. But our hero doesn't want to talk and grabs him with a furious look. He prepares to land another solid punch on the idiot's face. Seeing this, Yuji holds him back and asks him to stop because their lives just got better. Our protagonist lets him go and warns that he'll let it slide this time, but next time. The gang gets up as our hero turns his back and he won't go easy. The guys threaten him, saying they know his address and that their boss will crush them. Yuji explains that their boss is Kuro-san, the most dangerous guy in that area. Our protagonist then puts his hand on his friend's shoulder with a plan in mind. With a smile, he says they should fight Kuro-san and take the territory for themselves. Yuji is in shock and thinks his friend has become a completely different person. He's also worried because the gang will bring a lot of people to the fight. So, Yuji remembers 2 guys he helped and says he'll call them. The scene then takes us to an industrial area, preparing for the next showdown. Arriving at the location, Yuji's 2 friends were already waiting for them. Our protagonist doesn't seem very impressed and thinks they're not up to snuff, but his friend assures him that they are trustworthy, even if they don't look strong. The guy with the cigarette gets straight to the point and asks who the opponent is this time. Angrily, Yuji reveals that the enemy is the dreaded Kuro-san from that area. The duo is shocked to hear the name and asks if it's really that Kuroki. Tojo explains the situation and warns that if they're scared, they can leave. But the smoker gets excited and yells that he's been wanting to take that guy down for a long time. The big guy also gets hyped and says he's been waiting for those words. Our protagonist thinks they have more courage than he imagined. He warns that courage alone won't be enough to beat an entire gang. So, he points to his head and says they need to use the location to their advantage. The scene changes and a white van arrives at high speed at the agreed upon location. From inside the vehicle, several goons armed with baseball bats emerge. Soon after, the boss Kuro-san gets out and asks if this is the right place. The blonde guy confirms and says he watched them all day, and that they were always there. Kuro-san then asks how many enemies they'll have to face in the fight. The goon replies that there are 5 people, and that the leader seems like a maniac. With a confident smile, the boss says he doesn't lose to anyone in that department. Meanwhile, inside, our protagonist watches the gang's arrival. Our hero and his new companions prepare for the big showdown. The smoker is already in position on top of a shelf for the ambush. With a kick, the door is broken down, and the goons storm the place. The gang is met by the group waiting for them in complete silence. Kuro-san then asks if it was our protagonist who beat up his man. With a cold and serious look, our hero confirms the accusation without hesitation. The boss lets out a mocking laugh and yells for his men to come at them. With a look of pure rage, he orders all his goons to attack at once. So, the brutes advance with their baseball bats in hand. But from the top of the shelf, the smoker throws a white powder that blinds them all. Because of this, the goons are completely disoriented with the powder in their eyes. Kuro-san yells furiously and orders his men to take down the guy on the shelf. So, one of the brutes tries to climb up to get the smoker, but he's met with a powerful kick right in the face and goes flying. With a smile, the smoker pulls a rope to activate the next trap. From there, a bucket full of water tips over from high up in the room. Faced with this, the water soaks the powder, making the enemy's situation even worse. The boss gets ticked off and curses the group, calling their trick cowardly. Taking advantage of the confusion, our protagonist advances and grabs the blonde guy by the arm. With a quick move, he immobilizes him, and the guy screams in desperation and pain. Even while getting beaten, the blonde guy complains and says their methods are dirty. Our hero replies that it's just an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Without wasting time, he finishes the guy with a kick that sends him flying. From there, all the goons are defeated and are left lying on the floor. Kuro-san is furious and calls our protagonist a coward ready for a fight. Our protagonist opens his shirt and challenges all the enemies at once. Kuro-san accepts the challenge and says he'll fight him one-on-one. So, the boss also takes off his shirt, showing his fully tattooed body. From there, the two charge at each other for the final fight. Kuro-san lands a solid punch, but our hero manages to defend himself. In the counter-attack, he lands a powerful kick that sends the boss to the ground. On the ground, the enemy tries to get up and grab our protagonist by the hand, but our hero is stronger and manages to grip the boss's fist tightly. With a look of pure rage, he starts to squeeze the arm tighter and tighter. From there, he mobilizes him from behind, and the boss is left defenseless. Seeing the scene, his friends get worried, but he tells them not to interfere. Ameno understands that to take over the area, he needs to win with his own hands. With a crazed look, Kuro-san yells that he'll send them all to the underworld. Our protagonist grits his teeth and struggles not to let go of the enemy. With his friends watching, he remembers that he needs to win this fight. Yuji and Amano are worried and ask if he really doesn't need backup. Kuro-san scoffs and says a weakling like him could never beat him. But our protagonist uses his leg to brace himself and gain more strength. From there, he manages to break free, and the two are thrown back by the momentum. Without wasting time, he turns and lands a solid punch on the boss. Kuro-san is ticked off by the blow and prepares for a counter-attack. He grabs him and asks if that's all the strength our protagonist has. With a roar of rage, our hero lands a powerful headbutt on the enemy. Because of this, a lot of red liquid splatters from the violent impact. Kuro-san challenges him and says to see which of them will break first in the fight. The boss tries to land a punch, but our hero is faster and hits him. With his face all beaten up, he prepares for the final blow of the fight. With a brutal headbutt, he finally manages to take down the gang leader. With one last effort, he finishes the fight, and his enemy is out for the count. The other goons are in shock and wonder if the boss passed out. Our protagonist holds the defeated boss with a victorious expression. From there, he lets him go, and the guy falls to his knees on the ground, completely drained. His new companions are left with their jaws on the floor and call him incredibly strong. Despite the defeat, Kuro-san orders his men to attack all at once. But the big guy steps in front and says he won't get past him. Faced with this, Yuji and Amano yell that the fight is already over and that he lost. On the ground, the boss doesn't accept defeat and glares at our hero with hatred. Our protagonist says they've settled the score and that the fight is over, but he adds that he still hasn't gotten revenge for what they did to Yuji. With a kick, he sends him flying against a shelf full of books. The impact is so strong that the boss breaks the wood with his body. With his face all beaten up, Kuro-san screams in pure rage and frustration. The blonde guy holds him back and says that's enough because he called his cousin from the police. Our hero then stops and says he'll wait for the police to arrive calmly. Yuji panics and says the rumors were true and that they need to run. Our protagonist picks up his shirt and prepares for what's to come. He calms his friends and says no one is getting arrested and that they should wait. The smoker lights a cigarette and says he thinks they might be screwed, but Yuji reassures him and says it's all good because he trusts his friend. Suddenly, a group of police officers arrives at the scene with firm steps. The officer asks what's going on, and the blonde guy runs to snitch. He points to the group and says they started it all, and that they're not afraid of the police. The officer faces our hero and says he has guts for beating up his cousin. Our protagonist understands that Kuroki had a police relative protecting him. With a malevolent smile, the officer says he'll be reflecting in prison for the rest of his life. Even all beaten up, our hero questions if he really has that authority. The officer boasts and says that around here, he is the law and no one challenges him. The blonde guy asks to land a few punches on him before they take him to the cell. With a look of hatred, the officer orders his men to arrest all of them. From there, the officers advance with their batons toward the group. But our protagonist takes out his cell phone and asks if he can make a quick call. The officer scoffs and says he can call whoever he wants because no one there can stand up to him. With a smile, our hero warns that in 5 minutes, the officer will be on his knees begging for forgiveness. Kuro-san questions if he doesn't know about the relationship between Hodaka and Chief Tanaka, but the guy says no. The officer reveals that Kuro-san is the chief's nephew and that above him is Manjiro, an untouchable guy. Our protagonist thinks with a little smile that they don't know Manjiro already kicked the bucket. So, the officer dares him to make the call and see who will be kneeling in the end. From there, he takes out his cell phone and calls a woman named I am Munakata. With that, he answers the call and says, "Hello," while the others watch him carefully. On the other end of the line, I am replies that she understands while Yuji and Amano watch her. Soon after, our hero hangs up the phone, ending the short conversation with the woman. He thinks that this is a good chance to see if his new boss, Goda, is really trustworthy. The scene changes to a wooden door where someone is knocking for permission to enter. Ayam informs her boss that Manabu Tojo is on the other line, asking for his help. With his back to the woman, the boss, Goda, just listens to the message with a very serious expression. At first, boss Goda refuses the request and calls him an ungrateful brat. So, Ayam gets the message and prepares to leave the room. But she convinces him by saying that our hero is capable, and that dropping him now would be a bad move. With that, the boss seems to like the idea and listens to the woman's advice. She also says that our protagonist is in the palm of his hand and won't betray him. Because of this, he agrees to help but warns that the guy will have to pay his debt. Back at the confrontation, the officer scoffs and asks where the help he promised is. Our protagonist wonders if Goda will save him or just wants to use him until the end. Out of patience, the corrupt officer orders his men to arrest everyone there. Suddenly, a huge man appears and stops one of the guards from grabbing him. The big guy stands in front of our hero and faces the officers with a serious look. The officer gets ticked off and asks if the guy knows what happens to those who attack the police. Kuro-san yells for them to stop resisting because they're already completely finished. Our hero smoker friend panics and thinks this is the end of everything. At that moment, the officer's cell phone rings, and he answers with a surprised look. On the other end of the line, a voice yells at the officer, calling him Hodaka. With that, the officer explains himself and says he was just arresting some criminals. but the voice on the other end questions if he's talking about our protagonist. Scared, the officer stutters and confirms that it's him, the so-called Tujo. Faced with this, our hero thinks that things are getting very interesting. So, the guard gets the message and says he'll let him go right now. Soon after, he hangs up the call with a look of pure terror on his face. Kuro-san is confused and tells the officer to just arrest everyone already. But the officer turns and yells at Kuro-san to shut up and curses him out. From there, he punches the guy and yells at him for touching our hero. The other officers even offer a baton to our protagonist. The guard apologizes and says it was a misunderstanding and that the others are the guilty ones. With a cold look, our hero asks if the officer forgot what he said. He then tells the guard to get on his knees and apologize as he promised before. Without a second thought, the corrupt officer drops to his knees on the floor. On his knees, the officer begs for his life and apologizes for everything he did. The scene shocks everyone who is watching the corrupt officer being humiliated on the floor. With his face all beaten up, he continues to apologize nonstop. Our protagonist tells him to take his trash and get out of there and never come back. With a little smile of relief, the guard agrees and obeys the order immediately. So, the gang leaves and our hero watches them from the door. The smoker is ticked off and says that with support like that, he's the new boss. Faced with this, the big guy also agrees and says he'll follow him from now on. Amano approaches with a smile and praises him, saying he's always amazing. Our protagonist tells them to stop, but promises that if they stick with him, it will be worth it. His new followers get excited and yell that with him in charge, they'll do well. With a thoughtful look, our hero suggests they should start a legitimate business. Because of this, the group is confused by the proposal and stares at him with doubt. He explains that with Kuroki gone, the district is free, and they're going to take over his shops. The group is in shock and asks if he's serious about taking everything. With a serious look, our protagonist says that if you're going to do something, you go all in or don't even start. So he asks Amano to get the evidence and pay Goda a visit for him. The woman gives a slight smirk, as she has perfectly understood the guy's plan. From there, he says he's going to make a deal with the big shot who controls the entire city. The scene cuts to Goda's mansion, who seems to be already waiting for some important news. Soon after, Iam enters and announces that a gift from our hero has just arrived. In the room, Amano approaches the boss to deliver the message personally. With that, she hands over an envelope and says Tojo asked her to deliver it to Mr. Goda. The boss takes the envelope and analyzes the mysterious document inside. The woman explains that the recipient is a city big shot named Yoshimin Soga. She also adds that the proof of bribery will give him a huge advantage. The boss gives a slight smirk, as he liked the new information he received. Amano continues to stand in front of the boss with a very serious expression on her face. But she takes the opportunity and says that she actually has another favor to ask of him. Faced with this, the boss is interested and tells the woman to say what she wants. The woman reveals that their next target is a guy named Shuhei Yoshimura. Goda questions if it's the scum that Manjiro was protecting and says it's not worth his time. With that, Amano says they just need to cut his ties with the police. The boss replies that it's easy but asks what he'll get out of it. The woman then guarantees that as soon as the job is done, he'll get a good reward. Because of this, the old man gives a malicious little smile and seems very interested. The scene goes back to an hour earlier, with the group planning their next move. One of the guys explains that Kuroki was just a goon and that the boss paid off the police. Our protagonist concludes that to get to the boss, they need to silence the cop. Our hero's new ally has a very worried expression about the plan. Our hero thinks that if the cop's money is at risk, not even Goda can protect him. Back in the present, the group walks toward a huge building in the city. The guy warns that a frontal assault is risky because the enemy has many guards. But our protagonist calms him down and says they are there to negotiate, not to fight. Faced with this, the follower gets excited and yells that he's with the boss until the end. So the group of 4 men walks with firm steps toward the location. Suddenly, 2 huge guard dogs appear, barking and growling at them. The dogs are in an attack stance, ready to charge the group at any moment. Our protagonist tells them not to be afraid because they're just little puppies. Faced with this, the dog's expression changes from anger to pure fear and submission. Our hero's aura is so strong that his shadow transforms into that of a tiger. With that, the dogs retreat with their tails between their legs, not understanding the situation. Soon after, a voice from inside the mansion calls the dogs back. From there, a man in a robe appears and recognizes him as Manabu Tojo. Our protagonist stares at him with a serious look, confirming his identity. The boss questions why he's there after hurting Kuroki. Our hero replies that what happened with Kuroki was personal, but today is business. The brute laughs and tells him not to make him laugh and to leave. With that, his 2 goons prepare to forcibly remove the group from the premises. But the big guy from the group acts fast and holds one of the security guards from behind. At the same time, the guy in the cap grabs the other security guard by the collar. With that, The fight begins, and the group prepares to finish the brutes. Without wasting time, our protagonist lands a solid punch on one of their faces. Soon after, he grabs the other goon by the neck with a look of pure hatred. With a brutal blow, he throws him hard on the ground to end the fight. Because of this, the security guard is left lying in a pool of red liquid on the floor. Witnessing the scene, a man in a suit appears and yells that they asked for it. The boss threatens him and says that with one call, he can send them all to prison. But our protagonist challenges him and tells him to make the call because they'll wait. The brute is in shock and can't believe our hero's audacity, so he takes out his cell phone and calls Chief Tanaka, asking for help. On the other end of the line, the officer asks if it's a guy named Manabu Tojo. With a serious expression, the officer warns that he can't touch him under any circumstances. The boss gets desperate and yells that he paid him a lot to abandon him now. From there, the call is ended, and the brute is left without his protection. With the cell phone in his hand, the brute is left speechless after being abandoned. Faced with this, the boss surrenders and invites them in to talk about the matter. Our protagonist gives a victorious little smile and asks if they can come in.